Hello, darling. I thought you'd never get rid of that girl.
What are you doing here?
Waiting for you.
What, the hospital?
I didn't like it there.
How did you get here?
You wouldn't believe me if I told you.
This town is coming like a ghost town. Do you remember that song?
Yes, I do. You play it every day at the store. Of course I do.
It's on the Halloween playlist, and that is something that I listen to every time it's overcast.
You know, well, it makes sense. It's thematically appropriate.
It is. It's thematically appropriate to the show we're doing tonight. But also thematically appropriate to what we're doing tonight. Do you remember when you asked me if Wu-Tang was a hate group?
Why would you do this to me? Why would you do this to me on air? Yeah, just shame me publicly. That's really great.
It was kind of cute, actually, I thought. I was
yes.
like, oh my god, she doesn't know what Wu-Tang is. And that's fine. It's okay to not know.
My parents didn't love me. I didn't get to know.
And Wu-Tang is for the children. So that's just a sad story. Okay, so welcome to Ookum Spookum Podcast.
Welcome.
I am... Yeah. We're going a little crazy today. I am Sarah. I am one of your hosts. I am the Gen X love and light, energy field, shadow work kind of chick, and sitting with me is...
Your other host. My name is Tara. Hate and darkness. Hate and darkness, folks. We always promote hate and darkness.
And she's the Gen Z. So...
The youth, if you will.
The youth that didn't know who Wu-Tang was.
Yes,
Which made me have a single tear roll down my face. Okay, so we are going to be talking about some actual hate groups today.
Oh.
Yay. Okay.
Yippee.
And also some anti-hate groups.
Okay, better.
And also some of the middle-of-the-road groups. Okay.
Well, I guess someone has to be the loser.
Yeah. And in a strange twist, it's all one group. Skinheads. Yay!
I have been so fucking amped for this episode ever since I made an offhanded skinhead, like, Nazi joke at the shop, and you were just like, not all of them are Nazis, and I went, you're fucking lying, Sarah. And then, you know what? And you were like, you gave me a little bit of a mini rundown, and I was so blown away. I was like, okay, cool, so you're now gonna make an episode. You don't have a choice.
Well, see, okay, well, that's the thing, though, is that's how the media portrayed them, definitely, and it makes sense, because if we're talking about our media, it's salacious, right?
Yes.
It's exactly what you were joking about earlier about hate and darkness. It sells, and so that is part of the story that got told the most. It definitely is part of the story, though. It's true.
Yeah.
So I'm not here to say that all skinheads are good people. I'm not here to say they're all bad people either. They're just people.
Sure.
So we want to talk a little bit about their history and why they have the dubious
title
that
instead
they have.
Of just nefarious bald men.
Exactly. Okay, so they have been the whole thing with it's very nuanced, basically, and I think that people have a hard time with nuance.
Yes.
And people don't want to get to know the truth because people don't really care.
And it requires patience and it requires grace.
Yeah.
And those are two things that are in desperately short supply.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk about this today. You were talking about the educational aspect to it. Like, I find it fascinating, but it's also kind of shorthand for me, because when I tell my stories about growing up and being in my 20s and 30s and whatever, I always have to have this caveat of, like, yes, I hung out with skinheads, and no, I'm not Himmler Jr. Like,
well, that's nice to know.
There are other types of skinheads out there. So I wanted to get the word out so that I don't have to keep giving that as a warning every time I talk about one of my skinhead boyfriends, which there are many.
Welcome to Ookum Spookum. We do public good.
We do. We do. Educating the children about skinheads. But yes, I do have some familiarity. Some of this is based on my personal experience. Some of it is based on some books that I have read or other people that I know as personal experience. And the books that I've read, I could kill myself. I'm so upset. So I bought this book. It just looked like you were torturing yourself every time you would flip a page. Well, there's a couple, and we're going to get into that in a minute, but I will say about this particular book, it's called Spirit of 69, and it's a skinhead Bible. Yeah, lovely.
Maybe just read Cosmo.
Yeah, exactly. The other Bible. Yeah. So the thing with this book is that apparently I was talking to a friend of mine, and he was like, I think it's out of print. And I was like, okay, well, I got it on Thrift Books. And I think I only paid like $20 or something for it. Turns out it is out of print and very rare to find it these days, and it's worth $350, and I had marked it up because that's how I do research.
I'm telling you, man, just knock $100 off and then put it on Facebook Marketplace. Somebody will buy it.
I should also probably mark it down because it's boring as shit. It suffers from the same problem as American Psycho, the book, not the movie. The movie was great because it could take little bite-sized chunks of what the book was about and kind of explain it that way, but in the book, he'll spend an entire chapter on like a Hugo Boss suit, right? And
which is kind of the point.
Yeah,
right?
It is definitely the point.
It's very much the point, but like it's not super enjoyable to read.
Yes, and that's how Spirit of 69 is very much about style.
That's
it's very
how
much
I feel about like anything Donna Tartt has ever written.
Oh, I love The Secret History. You didn't like The Secret History?
No, it made me so angry to read. Where I understand the point. And yet, this is just the single most frustrating way you could have written this. I didn't even finish it.
Oh, okay. I like The Secret History, and I love The Goldfinch.
I was told The Goldfinch was better.
The Goldfinch had a 13-year-old Russian kid named Boris that was, like, my hero. Actually, there's a really cool story about him.
It's better than a bunch of, horrible, prissy, rich college students.
The whole thing with Boris, what was he saying? He was talking to his friend years later about their teenage alcoholism, and I used to use this for saying all the time. He said, I wanted to party and have fun, and you wanted to be dead. It's different.
That hurts.
Yeah, doesn't that shit hurt?
That hurts.
I'm telling you, that's why I love that fucking book, dude. It's amazing. I would love. I think I have it somewhere. I'll get it for you, and you can read it. And back to Skinheads because we've been talking about Donna Tartt for like 10 minutes. Okay. So when I say the word skinhead, what immediately pops into your mind?
Nazi shit.
Nazi shit. Right. Okay. Anything else? No.
Basically just that, to be honest with you. I mean, I know what you've told me about it, but for the sake of our viewers at home, I am the affable idiot.
That's not usually the case, but okay.
I like trying
You're
things,
neither
Sarah.
affable or an idiot.
Rude!
Okay, so skinhead, which is used as an adjective here, and I do that throughout the show, can denote far-right neo-Nazis. That's largely who society thinks of when that's mentioned. Anti-Nazi communists, and every part of the spectrum in between, but most falling into what is termed traditional, somewhat conservative, and a shade nationalistic. Some are apolitical. What defines them together, really, though, is the look, the music, and the propensity for violence. There was a sociologist named Mike Brake, and he coined the term traditional working class delinquent subculture, which I love. And he says there are 5 traits that kind of bound all of this together, right? There's toughness and violence, football, which is, I'm going to use the term football, even though we all know it's soccer.
Gay football. I'm kidding, Cristiano Ronaldo. You're very manly. I'm sure everyone's very proud of you.
I'm a hockey fan, so watching them flop around on the ground is just hilarious to me.
I just can't be fucked to care about sports.
I know you can't. I'm the opposite. We are very, very dissimilar in some ways.
And yet.
He also says ethnocentrism, Puritan work ethic, and that is something that differentiates skinhead as a culture from punk. There's a real big fissure between the two because skinheads tend to think that punks are lazy, that they're dirty, that they're glue addicts, which was very much true in the 70s anyway.
The glue addict part is so specific. Like, they really just hated that one punk who was snorting glue.
Yeah, I don't know, man. The 70s were a wild time.
Well, and it's very strange for me as somebody who is goth, right? Because so much of the foundation of the goth movement is with the punks. Yeah. And so to know that there was a schism that I was just never aware of in that community is just fascinating to me.
Yeah, it's a silly one too. And honestly, like over time, it really did kind of, it got much more, the lines were a lot blurrier and it became a little bit more...
You know what it feels like? It feels like when someone tells you they're a libertarian, where it's like, oh, so you understand the problem. You just don't want to fix it. Because punks, I feel, and this is a biased take, they understand that the root of the problem is capitalism, right? Mm-hmm. That's why they're perceived as lazy. They're not engaging with the economic system. Skinheads, at least as far as I've been told up to this point, didn't make it that far, and so they still have this like very high pride around how much work they output.
Yes, I would suggest that is pretty much very true. Okay, so I'm gonna do the disclaimer. Skinheads are part of my personal history, and I'm sure that if any of them hear this, I'm going to get a lot of, well, actually mansplaining, because that's kind of been my experience with the culture, is a lot of, like, splitting hairs about, oh, actually, you know, this particular, you know, concept wasn't introduced until 1975, or, you know, stuff like that. Yeah. And I get a lot of that. There's a lot of, like...
you like punk? Name 3 bands.
Well, no, even deeper than that. It's kind of more of, like, a jerking each other off about how much you know about the you know, the history of your culture.
Sure. Like, trad goths can be... Like, older trad goths.
Maybe it's something like with the word trad, then. I mean, because that's kind of the issue that I have with a lot of the skinheads, too. Okay, so, you know, that's kind of been my experience, though. The knowledge I share is my personal history, that of my friends, and the books I've read. The ones that I've read most recently are The Spirit of 69, A Skinhead Bible, and Skinhead, A Guide to America's Subculture, which was written by Tiffany Travis and Perry Hardy. Perry Hardy was in the band The Templars, which was a band that my ex is friends with. They're really good, actually. So when people ask me why somebody would adopt a skinhead look if they weren't racist, I have to go into the history a little bit. It wasn't the racist culture to begin with. Damn it.
It never usually is. It's always something either innocuous at best or like maybe a little shaky at worst, and all it has to do is be co-opted by the local Nazis and it's just ruined forever. Ask our friendly heathens, you know? Exactly.
Co-opted, yeah. So but as far as where they did come from. It's funny, both of the books that I read talked about them. They called them the skinhead cult, which I've never heard before.
That's fascinating.
It's very interesting. I was like, shit, okay, I guess I'll go with it. But where did they come from? So technically Jamaica. In the late 60s, Jamaican rude boys, who are basically fancy dressers and spitfires, brought reggae culture to London and to British working class soccer or football hooligans. And they went to ska dances, and when I'm talking ska, I'm not talking like Real Big Fish and all those horrible bands. I'm talking about like Toots and the Maytals.
Yeah, we hate you, ska enjoyers.
Well, it's just ska in like the 90s and early 2000s was kind of silly, and it's very different from what I'm talking about. The ska that was big in the 60s in London was more of like reggae, and it was more of I guess it was less shiny.
Yeah, the yacht rock didn't infect it.
Yeah. So it was also kind of a lot like soul music too, which was also big. They called it Northern Soul. And it's this lovely marriage of styles. So you had black and white people drinking and dancing together and fighting alongside one another. And the cult, which most people think about as an 80s fascist phenomenon or starting as a reaction to the hippie movement, actually started in 1964, which predates hippie culture. They came out of the mod style of the London streets and mixed with the Kingston rude boy culture, and the lads started shaving their heads and expanding on the style. It must be noted here that style is incredibly important to skinhead culture. It's the literal thread that binds them together, and they take that shit seriously.
Yeah, I mean, that's, again, I'm really conflating a lot of this with the goth experience because it's just the only through line that I really have. I understand that that's pretty reductive, but you'll just have to bear with me. That is very much been my experience.
Yeah, because there's something about both of these subcultures where there's so much rooted in how you look.
Yep.
And
like it's an issue with goth people today. Because now we're dealing with issues of like conservative goths, which is not possible. Like, goth is not only a fashion movement and a musical genre, it is also a political ideology and a literature movement.
Yeah.
You have to be all the things to get the badge.
And that's interesting too, because that's the thing with skinheads is that they have an entire spectrum of politics. They have an entire spectrum of this. And what really does tie them together, like I've said several times, is it's the music and it's the clothing. And that's why you could have that blanket term. They are very, very different when it comes to, you know, what they actually believe, but they are all considered under the umbrella of skinheads. So in both of the books that I've read, of all the men that I've dated, and the fiction books I've also read, such as American Skin and Rats Are Nice, are so fucking detailed, dude.
Oh, man.
So I'll break it down. Button-down shirts by Ben Sherman, polo shirts by Fred Perry, Levi's 501, thin suspenders called braces, flight jackets, and Doc Martens are the street look, with the fancier suits and brogues leading the way in the dance hall. Hair was, of course, shaved, though longer in the 60s compared to now, when some skins are most likely to go bick bald. The skin birds, or girls, wore similar fashion, although a more detailed haircut and the occasional miniskirt and fishnet combo.
Didn't know there were lady skinheads.
Oh, yeah.
Are they also bald?
Some are. Mostly what they do is there's a couple of different haircuts that they have. They're called Chelsea, which is like bangs and then like a shaved head. And then there's a feathered cut, which is it's short on top, and then they have like bangs, side pieces in the back, which I actually love the look. I'll show you a picture of it later.
Interesting.
I wish I could pull it off, but I have a really chubby face.
You know what? I take back literally everything I just said. We are not that hyper specific. That's crazy that it's down to the brand.
Oh, yeah.
That is wild. Like, I feel like goths in the modern day, have really tried to break away from specific fashion pieces. Like, there are your staples. But, like, a goth wearing pink that actually listens to the music is more goth than somebody who wears all black and spider webs and doesn't, right? Yeah. This is, like, asinine.
Yeah, I mean, it's also frustrating too because you have to listen to them fucking talk about it like you're interested, or you have to read the books about it, which is chapters and chapters on what setting they use the clippers of.
How many of these men are just closeted gay men?
Well,
it's fine.
We
love you. I kind of figured.
And it makes sense because, like, honestly, like, this is gonna be if we're getting to the crux of the problem, we could look at all of the Freudian shit that went on in my life that led me to fall for skinheads. Or we could just look at the fact that they're kind of fucking hot. Okay, they just are. They look good and they dress good, and
I mean,
sometimes
it's a standard.
Sometimes it's as simple as that for me.
You know what?
So
Diva, I'm not here to judge you. It's what I get it. It's a standard, right? Yeah. Most men will walk out of the house with a t-shirt and cargo shorts and call it a day. It's nice to see effort.
Yeah, we like effort,
even if it's on people who have some questionable opinions about race.
Yeah. Speaking of which, that brings us to another thing that is going to come up or is coming up now as we speak. This concept of laces in your Doc Martens and what color
I have heard about lace code.
Yes.
It is wild.
So the theory behind lace code is that certain colored laces in your Doc Martens mean certain things. Kind of like the Russian gangster tattoos. Each one has like a symbol behind it. But the thing is, there's no real hard and fast rules for this, because like some people will say that white laces mean white power, some will say that red laces mean white power, so it just depends. And it depends on what area of the country you're in, what like kind of crew you're talking to. A lot of people just, especially nowadays, I think find it very silly and don't really do it as much.
Nobody pays attention to this shit. I think the only time I've ever seen lace code come up in conversation is during protests, because people will wear just whatever the fuck they want to, like in their shoes, whatever, to protest, and then they won't think about the color of their laces. Because I think there is, and I don't remember which color it is, there is one that's like, I have killed a cop before.
Yellow.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that is dangerous. That is a dangerous situation to put yourself in.
Yeah, it's very fucking stupid too, by the way.
First of all, prove it. Picture it didn't happen.
So one of the other elements of skinhead culture, at least in England, is football. So this is, again, you and I differ. I love fucking sports, and so I get it. Like, I get the camaraderie at the games. Back in the day when I used to drink, I loved going to games and getting drunk and just screaming my head off. Love that shit. So that's a huge part of the culture in England. In America these days, a lot of skinheads are into hockey. I guess it's the violent thing as well. Yeah,
it just seems like if two men are beating each other in any capacity, a skinhead is there.
I used to have, one of my ex-boyfriends used to play on Thanksgiving morning. They would play tackle football at like 6 a.m. drunk. And it was fucking a bunch of skinheads. It was hilarious.
I don't know how to respond to that other than laugh, to be honest.
I have seen that particular group of guys. They're up in Baltimore.
But you know what? Look at them. A group of fine young men. They're not they are drinking at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Playing sports. They could be doing worse things.
They could be. They have. They have. But it was kind of charming to watch. I also saw them have the best snowball fight I've ever seen in my life, with them like shoving each other into oncoming traffic. And,
that's hilarious.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
The oncoming traffic part is not.
Don't do that. We don't co-sign that. But yeah, so basically they would support their teams, basically like Chelsea, Manchester United. West Ham was really big. My ex was a West Ham fan. And
Hammies?
Yeah. Stop. And the games were great, with some beer and a little bit of the old ultra-violence. Shout out to Clockwork Orange, which is another staple for skinheads. That was kind of what a lot of them based their crews on, was this, concept of violence.
Which, like, good movie. That's certainly not what I took from that film.
Yeah, well, sometimes people miss points, I guess, is what it is. I have a Clockwork Orange tattoo, which I always think is kind of cool. I have the... Do you know that?
No.
I have the last line from a Clockwork Orange tattooed on my left arm. It's this one.
Oh.
It says, "I was cured all right."
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I was always wondering what that one was.
That's what that one is. Yeah, so.
Ladies and gentlemen, Luna cameo.
Luna, you want to say hi, honey? She does not care.
0 fucks given. Back to the show.
Yeah. So in the late 60s, football match violence from skins was so common that steel-toed boots were considered weapons and were confiscated at games, leaving the young lads to watch the games in their socks.
That's hilarious.
Bricks, bottles, and razor blades also helped to round out the arsenal. Of course, the British newspapers fanned the flames about the violence, and the legends of the skinheads were born. So, in the early days, skinheads in England were mainly apolitical, at least as a group. They were more into drinking and fighting than political discourse. But all good things must come to an end, and the skins started edging towards a nationalistic worldview, especially when it came to Pakistani immigrants and homosexuals.
Oh, God.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's where the fissures are kind of starting here, right?
Yeah.
So, there's something that they charmingly called Paki bashing. Yeah, and there was a contingent of the skins that kind of was going off into that right-wing nationalistic.
We hate Pakistani people for some reason.
And we're moving, well, because, you know, the whole concept of they're taking our jobs. And,
yes, the normal.
Yeah.
The normal.
The huge, you know, the huge. And so, you know, they were the
Great
ones
replacement theory is a lie.
Yeah. So basically they were targeting Pakistanis, they were targeting homosexuals, and then there were the people that were trying to stay traditional and keep it back to the reggae roots, right?
Yeah.
Out of that was kind of born this concept of the Skinheads Against Racial Prejudice, which is people that would literally go to shows to beat up Nazis.
Nice.
So, yeah.
What a profession.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing the Lord's work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we'll come back to that in a minute now. But basically, I want to go into a little simplistic explanation of the spectrum of skinhead politics. Like I said, this is all very nuanced. And the thing that I think was really impressive to me when I was doing the research was that, again, like, the fact that they could all have these sometimes diametrically opposed viewpoints and still be considered the same. It's very fascinating to me. But anyway, on the right, you've got the neo-Nazis or the white power skins, like the Hammer Skins or National Front. There's a band called, as somebody who's doing a lot of World War II research lately, there's a white power band called Final Solution, which to me is the most disgusting thing I've ever fucking heard of in my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
I could have gone the rest of my life knowing that somebody didn't make that decision.
Exactly. Yeah. So, there was a lot of people on the right that found disaffected youth as a powerful workforce for their cause. So you've got traditional skins that skew a bit right with traditional English, or once it reached our shores, very patriotic American values. You've got traditional skins that are a bit leftist. Most of the ones that I knew, they voted Democratic because they were with the Union.
Yeah.
So a lot of them were like steel workers and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Very proud of being working class and were Union members, so they were Democrats, basically. Yeah. And then you have the anti-fascist skins. Their sole purpose was to fight Nazis, and we love them. They were really big when I was in high school, so in the 90s.
Like the superheroes of the bar, I guess.
I did a paper on them, actually, when I was in 8th grade. My friend's brother was one, and I had the biggest crush on him. Matt Mayberry, shout out. And I just thought he was the coolest thing in the world. So, yeah, that was really cool. The most well-known of this ilk is Sharps, again, Skinheads Against Racial Prejudice. They're a strange breed, as sometimes they're more committed to the subgroup than they are to their political beliefs, and they move up and down the spectrum, okay? This is weird, but I've seen it a lot where they'll start on one end of the spectrum and go to the other.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, there's this amazing movie called This Is England. I rewatched it the other day. I'd forgotten how much I loved it and how emotional it made me. It was one that I watched with Nate, who's my ex. And I had told him that, like, I wanted to adopt the kid that was in it. Like, he's just this beautiful story about Sean Meadows, who is a skinhead and was basically raised by traditional skinheads in England when he was a young kid. But one of the leaders of that group, his best friend was radicalized when he was in jail, and so he comes back and basically radicalizes parts of the group.
Yep.
So it's a really good explanation of, like, this can move in various ways, like chess pieces.
Yeah.
So
well, and that's unfortunately that's the nature of a lot of groups like this, where it is very dependent on the ideology of leadership. And so if somebody comes back from jail and decides they really don't like brown people anymore, that becomes a pretty rewarded and predominant philosophy.
And it's very easy, I think, to say your problem. It's easy and attractive to say that your problems exist because other people are making it hard for you.
Yeah, because it removes personal responsibility and it gives you something very easy to blame.
Exactly. Yeah, and you're blaming something that's not you. I mean, it's not your fault that you can't get a job. It's the fact that there are people that are not white that are getting jobs.
Right. Instead of placing that anger appropriately on the system that forces this to happen over and over and over again, you're placing it on people that are also within that system. I will say this till the day I die: do not hate the player, hate the game.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and also it's about, I'm a really big fan, partially, it's interesting because I was talking to my friend Steve the other night, Skinhead, as a matter of fact, from New York, and he was like, you're very, very responsible, and I started laughing because I was like, I'm 40 years old and I work in a crystal shop. What are you talking about? And he was like, no, you're really into personal responsibility. Like, you don't blame other people for the shit that went wrong in your life. And I think that that's something that I have very little tolerance for when it comes to people that are, going whole hog into these racial ideas. That it's like, if you're saying that you're the superior race, then why can't you fucking figure it out?
On God. That was bars, Steve. Thank you.
No, that was me.
Oh, that was you. I'm sorry. Sorry, Steve.
He's smart too, but that
bars, Sarah. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Do you mind if I smoke?
Now hear this. Now hear this. Let's go to our ad break. We are coming to you live from Sticks and Stones Circle in Fairfax, Virginia, your home and location for all things spiritual, crystal, or spooky. Feel free to visit us anytime on our days that we are reading, or just to pop in and take a peek around. It is our home away from home. It is a wonderful community that we have here. If you are ever interested in joining any of our classes, feel free to see us on Meetup under Witchy Ways. Now hear this. Now hear this. Welcome back to your regularly scheduled program.
Smoke?
I always smoke at the theater. Somehow it enhances the performance.
Okay, so I would say that most skins want to stay out of politics, although certainly not because they're afraid to fight.
Yeah, obviously.
There are those in the middle, are sometimes referred to as fence walkers. And I used to call the skinheads that were starting to lean towards the right too much as 87.5. So the concept behind 87.5 is some of the stupid, childish boy code that they use in white power skinhead stuff is 88, which stands for H.H. Heil Hitler.
Yeah.
And so 87.5 to me is like when you're just about to get into that place where you're turning into...
We're either too much of a pussy to go the whole way, or we're like teetering on the edge and somebody needs to snatch you from the ledge or you're lost forever.
Yeah, and then you become what we lovingly called boneheads. That's what we call the Nazis, or boneheads.
Interesting. They don't have skin no more. They shaved it all off.
Dumbasses.
They're walking around like Ghost Rider everywhere.
Yeah. There is, and I guess the easiest way that I could explain 87.5 is there's a bunch of skinheads who, there's a white power band called Screwdriver, okay? And everybody hates them that is not a Nazi, but they all say that their first album is good. And it's really annoying to me. I'm like, there's no fucking album is good.
Please don't make caveats for people. Okay, I'm about to co-op this entire episode. I am an artist, right? I hear, appreciate the art, not the artist, all the time. That only works until the ideology of the artist is very obviously the art piece.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Especially if you're giving money to these people.
Yeah.
Every time you stream shit on Spotify, they're making money off that.
They're not on Spotify, but
well, thank God. But
I know.
Still.
Thank God for small favors. But no, it's more of like their first album was before they started kind of glomming onto this, ideology.
Before shit hit the fan.
However, I still think it's bullshit, and it still annoys the shit out of me.
Yeah,
So
it's the same reason I don't listen to Christian Death. I know they're good. Explain why you needed to say the N-word and talk about hanging black people.
Yeah.
Interesting. Anyway.
So here's a basic timeline of the early skinhead history. In 1964 through 69, there was the emergence from the mod scene in London. 1970, US and UK news coverage started getting pretty hyped up. 1980, groups start organically popping up in US cities simultaneously. And that's right about the time of Reagan and Thatcher. So,
oh, great.
And there, as you can imagine, some of the skinheads
Two
were
of my
super
favorite completely genderless bathrooms.
Exactly. So there's definitely going to be some that are falling in line with their policies and some that are raging against them. In 1981, there was the South Hall riot. There was basically a concert that was supposed to go on that they canceled at the last minute, and a race riot ensued. This was in London, and it was a big fucking deal. In 1983, groups in most cities in the States, and violence is on the rise. In 84, the first racist group they consider as romantic violence is founded in Chicago, becomes Chicago area skinheads. In 1986, skinheads appear on the Donahue Show. In 87, Sharp was founded. In 88, Oprah causes visibility to increase, and Geraldo gets his nose broken on TV by a skinhead throwing a chair. It was lovely.
Damn, you gotta send me that video. I want 4K footage of that.
In 89, Anti-Racist Action is formed, and the Department of Justice establishes a skinhead task force. And then Confederate Hammerskins are prosecuted for hate crimes. So they're the first people, basically, that were prosecuted for hate crimes as far as the skinheads go.
Yeah. Because, you put Confederate right in the name, man.
Yeah.
How long did you think it was going to take before the feds got you?
Yeah. So in the 80s and 90s in particular, every large city had at least one crew, between 6 and 100 members. Crews are defined as loosely cohesive groups, usually formed via friendships and the social affiliation of being a skinhead from a certain geographical era. Some cities of multiple crews had crews fighting over the same areas. Eventually, some skinhead crews resembled the traditional youth gang structure, typically defined by an initiation ritual like jumping a kid and taking his boots, hierarchy of leadership, and frequent engagement in delinquent behavior for entertainment or economic profit. So,
I was about to say, this veered off into gang violence really fast.
Yeah, and that's part of it. That's the thing, too, is, like, if I'm presenting all of these sides, like, I can say that some of their ideals are a little loftier than others, but usually the common denominator is that they're not afraid to get their hands dirty. And it depends on, where you fall ideologically, but one thing they have in common is that they like to fight, and that's one of the things. Like, there was one of the concepts that was brought up in the book was like anyone could shave their head and call themselves a skinhead, but there's a certain amount of credibility that you have to bring to the table and authenticity, and a lot of times that is proving yourself through violence. While there's really nothing to prevent a kid, and most kids are in their teen years, a lot of skinheads are between the ages of 14 and 16. And then a lot of them age out or go into what my ex used to call rockabilly retirement, which is, you hit a certain age and you start listening to Social Distortion and Johnny Cash and grow your hair out, and then spend an hour doing your pompadour because you are still obsessed with the way you look.
Yeah, tell me about your rockabilly phase, Sarah.
Dude, the hair sucked so bad. Like, it looked so good, but it was just so hard to deal with your hair every fucking day.
Gothabillies exist, and man, it's already so much work to put all this shit on. You're gonna do even more.
I know. Ridiculous. Okay, so mostly you'll need someone to vouch for you and a demonstrated ability to fight. I, like a lot of females, and no, I never shaved my head. I was way too vain for that. I dated my way in. And as far as fascist skins go, they tend to recruit either over the internet or at shows. When I was young, a lot of neo-Nazis, also known as boneheads, would descend on the shows and hit on little blonde girls, which is super classy.
Disgusting.
And they would get dispatched with a fucking quickness. Like, people would beat the shit out of the Nazis that would come to the shows. And this was everybody. This was not just sharps. This was traditional skins would do it. Basically anyone that wasn't a Nazi was getting on the bandwagon and getting these fucking people out. And that's something that my generation did that I was really proud of. I saw a lot of them stand up to it, and a lot of people say, you cannot come to our fucking clubs, you cannot come to our shows, you can't come to our parties. I don't give a fuck who you are.
Because here's the thing, right? It's not just bravery. That's a smart economic decision. Like, because I used to work as an event bartender. I also used to work at Starbucks. Fuck you guys. The second you let one Nazi in, it's a Nazi bar now.
Yeah, exactly.
And you don't make money being a Nazi bar.
Yeah. Younger kids flock to the scene because of the same reasons kids formed gangs: camaraderie, brotherhood, the possibilities of a good fight. You know, I will say that there's a lot to be said for, and it goes two ways. It can either be older people looking out for the kids,
Yeah.
or in the case of the Nazis, grooming them,
Yeah.
basically, and filling their heads with ideology. And maybe who's to say that they're not doing that on the other side too? But I will say that there is, you know, the emphasis is on brotherhood. The emphasis, and notice I don't say sisterhood, because even though there are female skins, this is very much a boys' club.
Yeah, I was about
And
to
it was
say.
very much that way for me when I was around. Like,
Yeah.
I was treated a lot of the times like an appendage.
Yeah.
And I will say that I was very proud when I would see people stand up to Nazis at shows. I've been in situations that were very dangerous in that way.
Yeah.
So, along with the look and the brotherhood, there is music. It started with ska and reggae, but both American and British skins fell in love with their own music. A new strain of punk called oi comes from saying oi, 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 that Cockney kind of hey kind of a thing.
I heard you do that, and then I went Aussie, 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 and you looked at me like I was fucking stupid.
Yeah, so bands like Sham 69, the Foreskins, and Cockspur, that's my favorite, and you gotta love their cheeky little titles.
The Foreskins.
Yeah, the Foreskins.
I'm
Yeah, because they're
picturing-
Foreskins.
Okay, because here's the thing, right? Because have you ever seen on YouTube those videos of like interviewers on the street where they pick somebody randomly who has headphones in and is like, what are you listening to? I'm picturing some dude who gets pulled to the side by an interviewer, there's a mic in front of his face, and he has to answer the Foreskins.
So yeah, my personal favorite of the oi bands are Cockspur. They're fucking fantastic. They were Nate's favorite. I think he might have had a tattoo of them, but I can't remember. Nate is my friend who passed, who was kind of like, I don't know.
Well, we already called him your ghost boyfriend in one episode.
Yeah, he's my ghost boyfriend. But it was kind of like a poppy punk type of a lot of call and response. There's a lot of chanting, that sort of a thing. But don't call it punk, because we know punks and skins, big difference.
Yeah, because guys don't bathe. Okay. What are your opinions about racial injustice in the United States?
There you go. But it did bring a lot of energy to the scene and was the perfect soundtrack for drunken brawls. This is where, nowadays...
This is where, like, the Jackass themes come from, right? Or is that a different...
Cockspurs, big in
Okay,
Jackass, yes.
Yeah.
I will say the Dropkick Murphys kind of evolved from that, too. And
Yeah.
they've been very good about dispatching Nazis lately. They've been very, very anti-Nazi. And so we're very happy with our
Keep up the good work, gentlemen.
fellow Irish-American guys bringing it home. American ingenuity brought about a harder, less poppy edge to the music, and a new genre was born, hardcore. So in DC, there was a big hardcore scene in the early 80s. That's where I'm from. I was too young for that. But I'm very well aware of Minor Threat, Bad Brains. I've seen Bad Brains, but it was like when Obama got elected, so it was way after the fact.
I actually used to work at the prison that Fugazi performed at for the inmates.
Yeah, they. I did a Rock for Choice benefit with Fugazi, and they're amazing. But it's interesting, in both of the books that I read, they didn't go into the DC scene at all, which is really interesting, because the DC scene was very left-wing.
Yeah.
It was very much anti-racist. It was also, there was a lot of straight edge kids. It's kind of where they consider straight edge being born. And so that's basically people that don't drink, smoke, do any of that shit. They tend to treat with women with more respect. When I was in the 90s, there was a lot of straight edge kids who were feminists, they were vegan, but they were also skinheads, and they like to fight. There was this weird, like, we're pacifists, but we're not afraid to throw down if we have to. Well, especially if you're assaulting a woman or that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm unfortunately, pacifism cannot defend its own ideology.
Exactly. Yep. So in those books, there was this whole little lacking part about DC hardcore, and I'm going to bring that up in a future episode when I talk about the occult leanings of our beautiful town and the scary shit that goes on there.
Indeed.
But I did know a lot of straight edge kids like Nate growing up. In New York, bands like Agnostic Front and the Cro-Mags paved the way for New York City hardcore, and the next evolution of style hit New York. Camo shorts, black hoodies, and Adidas stood tall next to Ben Sherman's and Levi's. So, skinhead culture varied a bit by location. So the New York City skins very different from Cali skins, and that kind of makes sense when you think about culture, that sort of a thing.
Yeah.
And of course, they kind of veered off from the original British because they didn't have the same, we weren't railing against Thatcher here. It was other people. So, and then as how skinheads are represented in media, I really would recommend, if you're interested in this stuff at all, to watch This Is England. It will touch your heart. It's an emotional movie. It's very, very lovely. And a lot of the cult movies about skinheads tend to glorify them. I would say American History X to me was painful to watch, because it was like, look at Edward Norton in his gorgeous Nazi body and his fucking idealized man with his huge swastika tattoo, and I'm like, this is not, I don't like, I think this is doing the opposite of what you wanted to do.
Hey guys, why do you want me to find the Nazi attractive?
Exactly.
I don't need to do that to empathize with the story.
Yeah. So that movie was ridiculous to me for a lot of reasons. And also... So
Edward Norton, ew.
You know what? He's cute, I think. We don't agree on men, except for Johnny Knoxville.
I could shake him and snap his neck. It's the same feeling
Not
as
in American
Timothy
History X you couldn't, though.
That's
He was
fair.
huge in that movie.
That's fair.
Got swole. But also, Romper Stomper was kind of the original of those, and that was about skinheads in Australia, and it featured Russell Crowe in one of his first movies. And that was kind of glorifying it. So it's like, there's this whole thing of like, we're going to misdirect things, where it's like, okay,
I think Hollywood in general struggles with nuance. They don't know how to portray or like hold a negative group as the protagonist and not glorify them because they're the protagonist,
exactly.
Right? Just because the person who is, the point of view of the story does not mean that the story needs to treat them like they are right or good at all times.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there's something to be said about the objectification of Edward Norton in that movie, where it's just kind of like,
desirable.
Yeah, exactly. So there's this kind of romanticized, idealized thing. It makes me think of in tarot cards, the Knight of Cups, like that. Oh, I'm the knight in armor that is coming to save you, and I have these high ideals, and it's almost like this Arthurian type of a situation where they become these mythic beings, and it's like, you have to remember that these are just fucking human beings.
And even in Arthurian myth, Arthur is getting cucked by one of his best friends.
Yeah, which does happen a lot in skinhead circles, as a matter of fact. I can think of a couple of incidents of that happening, not necessarily with me, maybe. But yeah.
Yeah, a group that's prone to violent tendencies, and you guys think cheating is a good idea.
Yeah. But if you ask 1,000 skinheads to explain their culture, you'll get 1,001 answers, and they're all true. And while membership numbers have fluctuated a lot since 1964, it's never really died out. Not really, and there must be a reason why.
Unfortunately, racism will always be attractive to people that are just angry and want to put that anger on someone and not something, because it's much easier to fight someone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. And the reductiveness of it is sad. And the fact that it's aimed at people that are very young.
And very working class, so they don't have time to process a lot of the really complex, like, socio-political nature of the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and I do think that that's one of the reasons why sometimes they grow out of it and go into rockabilly retirement, is that they kind of do see the error. Just as much as there are people who go from being left-wing and getting radicalized into the right, there are people that do the opposite, and they learn things.
Oh, dear.
Which was one of the... Well, no, in a good way. Like, they become more open-minded.
Yeah.
Which was, I think...
I misinterpreted that as, like, rockabilly people becoming skinheads, and I was like, that seems a little counterintuitive.
Well, I mean, at least you're not having to put, an hour and a half into your hair anymore.
That's true. The rockabilly turning into a skinhead is just a rockabilly giving up.
Yeah, so, how does this relate to how I was brought up? I mean, I found it attractive because it was dangerous.
Yeah.
I liked the fact that they drank and listened to great music, and the guys weren't afraid to fight. And my joke used to be like, I will date every guy that I date has to be able to beat up the guy that came before him. And this is all stuff that I have grown out of myself. And I've been all up and down the spectrum with this stuff, and I have seen people on every aspect of it. And there's so many good things about it. Like, I really do think that when it's done right, when you're talking about people that are using this to fight for more equitable, treatment of people, for, for being anti-racist, and there's a lot to be said for like the brotherhood. There's a lot to be said for taking care of these younger kids and kind of telling him like, look, there's nothing wrong with working hard, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with, I mean, yes, we don't like, necessarily like the system,
there's
but
more to the world than working hard.
there is, yeah. And we know that because we don't work very hard.
Let's be honest here, right? If the person who worked the hardest was paid the most, the donkey would own the farm.
Yeah.
That's not how the world works, and it frankly never has been.
Yeah.
It is the Ouroboros of a capitalist society that keeps you constantly exhausted and struggling so that you can never react to your environment correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that because they are disaffected youth, it's very easy to manipulate them into believing whatever you want them to believe, right? Yeah. And so we can be used for good or evil, and
because there is no group that is devoid of bad apples. That is not a fair assessment. Mm-hmm. There are goths that are absolute tools, man. There are, hell, even people in our own witchy community that we will think of and not name, that we know are negative influences on what is otherwise an incredibly positive community and experience. Whether that destroys it for you or not is a personal decision, but I do think you have to sit and go, okay, what was the net outcome of this movement? And it was kind of Nazism.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think that that I will say that numbers-wise, it does seem to be that there are more either apolitical or traditional skinheads than there are Nazis.
Sure. Well, also because, like, beliefs are hard, and they take effort and consistency. Not everybody wants to do that.
Yeah. I do think that it can be a really positive. It's almost like I'm thinking of right now as like some sort of like a Boy Scout type of situation where it can be a lovely experience to grow up that way.
Skinhead apologist. I'm kidding. No, in general, like, I think there is value at least to like the sharps and the more left-ended, left-centered part. But it is what it is. It's how we got some pretty good music, all things considered. And it is a moment within social history that if we don't study and take apart and understand, the reductive opinion is what wins, and you don't learn anything.
Yeah. Yeah. So I had a lot of fun when I was younger, going to shows and drinking, and I didn't get into too many fights. I have very short arms, so like I'm not very good at throwing punches.
I got into a lot of fights as a kid.
I could take fights, like I could take getting hit very easily, which is kind of a weird.
Listen, that means you're a tank.
Yeah, I am.
Tanks are for absorbing damage, not applying it. Yeah. That's why DPS and tank are two different positions in most like fighting games.
Yeah, I'll take your word on that. You know how I feel about video games.
Listen, you get sports, I get video games. Yes. Life is fair.
Yeah, so you're going to be getting a whole different range of what is skinhead culture about and how do we use it for good aim rather than letting it fall to the wayside of hatred and vitriol. And it's just interesting to me. I think the takeaway that I got from this that was so fascinating to me was like how it was almost like the way you looked is so much more important than what you believe, because you could always hang your head on this, like it's this physical representation, right? Yeah. You see this and it becomes an icon, like it's a placeholder of like this is somebody who likes to fight and drink and in a lot of cases, in some cases have these racist ideals.
Visuals are incredibly important to establishing any sort of ideology. Why do you think the uniform exists?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and this is a uniform. Mm-hmm. It is definitely a uniform. And, I don't take back the days that I spent doing this stuff. I learned a lot. And I met some really wonderful people, and I also saw some really tragic shit happen. Yeah. And I at 48, looking back, I don't regret it, but I also don't necessarily.
There were better choices that could have been made. Yeah. But we're here.
Yeah. Yeah. We're here.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful night. Touch some grass and maybe put the buzzer down.
that was one of the most enjoyable half hours I've ever spent.
Oh, well, Vera, how could you?
Poor Ruth.